560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Oh, it starts today. The congestion tax in New York. And I shouldn't laugh because, of course, Nightly News last night was saying, and they're thinking about doing it in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago. Basically, if you go south of 60th Street, here's me trying to act like I know about New York, then there will be a congestion tax. And here's a New York City reporter explaining how it works.
Motorists entering the congestion relief zone south of 60th Street will need to pay a toll during peak hours for small vehicles and vans, $9 per day, down from an earlier plan of $15. For trucks and buses, between $14.40 and $21.60. Riding a motorcycle, $4.50. State leaders say the money will fill the MTA's $15 billion budget gap, paying for subway improvements and new electric buses. The plan will also help get at least 80,000 cars off city streets. In June, New York Governor Kathy Hochul delayed the measure weeks before it took effect.
I have come to the difficult decision that implementing the planned congestion pricing system risks too many unintended consequences for New Yorkers at this time.
5 months later, Hochul revived the idea. Still, lawsuits from opponents, including New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, poured in.
We're not against lowering pollution. We're for that. But there's a time, there's a place, there's a deal that works for New Jersey commuters and ones that don't.
And the MTA says that $9 daily toll will rise to $12 in 2028, and it will increase to $15 in 2031.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? Well,
does.
Here's this one New York resident who's going to have to pay to see his children. This is classic.
Starting today, the congestion pricing is going into effect. $9 each day that you pass 60th Street. And while I disagree with it for many reasons, for me in particular, it really hits home because I live right here on 61st Street in this building, and my car is right there, parked in front of my building. And if I want to go to turn around to go uptown to visit my kids who live on 79th Street, I have to pay $9 to go around the block because this is a one-way street, and that's a one-way street, and that's a one-way street, and there's no way for me to get uptown without going around the block and paying $9. And I think something has to be sorted out for Manhattan residences.
And don't think that if you drive a motorcycle, it's still $4.50. And I don't know where the e-bike comes in on that. Because that's a moving vehicle as well. I mean, you're not going as fast as a motorcycle, but it's a taxable object.
Yeah.
And I love Kathy Hochul. She acts like the hero in all this. Did you hear her?
Yeah, people still.
Oh,
vote for
no.
this stuff.
Yeah, no. She's a hero. She's looking out for you.
Yeah.
It is my job to make decisions that take into account the needs of all working New Yorkers. So I made the decision to put the congestion pricing program on pause while we devise a different path forward.
Here's the hero part. Ready?
State law requires that congestion pricing simultaneously raise money for the MTA and drive down traffic congestion. These are important priorities. But I believe that no New Yorker should have to pay a penny more than absolutely necessary to achieve these goals. And $15 was too much.
Too much. So,
and I'm proud to announce we have found a path to fund the MTA, reduce congestion, and keep millions of dollars in the pockets of our commuters. Under this plan, the MTA will implement a congestion pricing plan with a reduced daytime toll of $9 beginning in January.
$9 instead of $15. But guess what?
You heard that correctly.
In 2028, it goes up to $15 anyway. But she acted like the hero. It was very reminiscent of Brandon Johnson, our mayor, saying, we're going to raise property taxes, but not at the first, not the first goal. We're going to go less.
We're going to get you.
We're going to get you
right now.
Not 330 million, 68 million. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so
they think that there are betters. With more on this, let's welcome back to the program our very good friend, Jim Iuorio, host of the Future's Edge podcast and special contributor to Wire Points. Good morning, Mr. Iuorio, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I just hearing her voice talking about it made me so angry on a Monday morning because it is so asinine. They can no longer act like they care about poor people when they pass a law like this that is obviously so disproportionately affecting struggling people. Now they're going to have open roads for their limousine liberals going to their Broadway shows at night. It's absolutely unbelievable. And again, the $15 thing, to anchor the negotiation at 15 when you wanted 9 the whole time, who do they think believes them? And I guess people still vote for him, so somebody does. I know all you said was good morning, and then you got all that.
Well, hey, this is to help the environment. They want less traffic, less pollution. So is this, going to drop traffic numbers?
Who knows if it even will? It's so funny. Like when I drive into Chicago, every day I was like, sometimes I wish they made the tolls $5 just to get half the cars off the road, so it wouldn't take me an hour and 15 minutes to get home every day. But it's not the right policy because you don't want to just open things up for. But by the way, that's only a small part of the discussion too. Them looking us in the eyes and saying that they're going to use this money for A, B, and C reminds me of 1972 when they put the first tollway in Chicago, and they said literally it's just the tollway is just going to be to pay for the road that we built. I think it was 90 to Kennedy, and it's only going to take about 2 years, and then there'll be no tolls. Well, Milton Friedman's words, there's nothing so permanent as a temporary government policy. So they're going to keep raising the money, and they're not going to spend it on public transportation or whatever. They're going to go into their slush fund, and they're going to spend it whenever the heck they please.
Well, then, but where do you think the zone would be in Chicago? Would it be near the Board of Trade? Would it be near City Hall? Or the Cook County building? And I mean, they're together anyway. But say if you have to go, get a marriage license or pay a water bill, that there would be a congestion tax if you drove into that area to pay your bills.
Yeah, because with us, it would be like a ring around the entire loop just because, in New York, it is so defined by the up and down of the island of Manhattan. And the further you go down is where Wall Street and downtown and where the real congestion is. But in Chicago, we're a little more spread out. And they will do it. I mean, anytime any lawmaker here is looking at, they're going, another revenue stream, let's grab at it. But again, it will be disappointing to them because it will hurt the local economy. And this underscores the point that I wish that we didn't have this federal government that bailed out states. Mm-hmm. The state of New York, and sadly the state of Illinois, is heading towards the rocks, and they're doing so with a belief that the federal government at some point will bail them out with funds. But making stupid decisions like this, I think, have at it, and if you bust, you bust.
I think that will destroy the downtown, though. I mean, there's so many. If you drive, and I don't know when the last time you went downtown, but there's so many boarded up buildings. Yeah. On State Street looks like a joke. Yeah. The Mag Mile is a fraction of what it used to be. I can't even imagine. Do you think, oh, God, I wonder if they'd start the congestion tax around Mag Mile?
Huh? Yeah, right. And the last time I went downtown was this morning. That's where I am now in my office. So, and yes, to do something which downtown areas need to be revitalized after what's happened over the last 5 years. I mean, commercial real estate is abandoned. The occupancy of some of these buildings. To do something right now to restrict it, it just shows how just completely incompetent some government is.
Yeah, Jim. But doesn't the Mag Mile, they only have like this powerful group that come together? Because didn't they come after or go against something Lori Lightfoot tried to do, a tax imposing something on specifically the Mag Mile? I remember something like that.
I just have a vague memory of that too. And again, I hope so. Yeah. I hope there's a group of people, some business, things like the Chicago Economics Club will lean on these people and say, this is a dumb move. Yeah. First of all, you don't need any more revenue. You need to stop spending money like drunken sailors. So to act like you do is absurd. And now when you start talking about the environmental stuff, as soon as it becomes this religious ideology part of them, they think everything they do is fine. And they can say, we're saving you. And, in the UK, they're talking about not being able to drive like 15, 20 minutes from your house without paying big tolls to try to keep people from driving.
Yeah.
This is some insidious stuff, in my opinion.
But Jim, you said they don't need more money. Well, not according to this article I saw on wirepoints.org written by Ted Dabrowski and John Klingner. They're trying to bring back the progressive tax.
Of course.
I mean, think about
of course.
that.
So the thing that so cracks me up, and it has in the federal government and the 5 states, Illinois being one of them, that are broke all the time, and they say they have this crisis, this financial crisis, while at the same time they keep increasing spending. Like, who are you supposed to believe? Not them. They don't have a financial crisis. They have too much money. If they want to go bust, go bust.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks a state can't declare bankruptcy, and it's not really true. You just need federal permission. It happened once. Arkansas in 1933 declared bankruptcy. All these states are headed toward it, and there should be no impediments to it. People wouldn't lend Illinois money anymore if they thought they could go bankrupt, and then all of a sudden they'd have to clean their house.
But think about this. 25 states, including every Illinois neighbor, according to this article, have cut income taxes since 2021, but not Illinois.
No.
Yep. Think about that. Think about,
I love it, by the way. Yeah. I love competition between the states. Yeah, just let the better state win. And I'm standing in the losing state, obviously, as are you guys.
Well, do you think there'll ever be a time that we'll go back to pre-COVID days with office buildings being filled up again? I mean, I have 2 nieces who work. One's back at work Monday through Friday. The other one, they still go in 2 to 3 days a week. And if they need to stay at home or something happens, or they can freely stay at home and do their job.
Yep, my daughter works 3 days a week in an office, 2 days at home, which I actually think, if I was that age, I think that's a pretty attractive solution. I think it's always going to be a hybrid. If anything, over the next 5 years, I think it'll start to slant back more to like 4 days a week in the office, because I think people are realizing that productivity does go down. But this notion of the federal government employees who such a extremely high percentage of them don't go to the office, and we know about the work ethic of government employees anyway. And I'm not even saying that it is just a fact that when you're in a non-productive job, that the pressure to produce is less. It's just that's the way government employees are. To put them at home, also, gosh, I want that.
Well,
job.
I think a lot of those federal employees, at least one that I know, moved out of D.C. That's why she's not going to work, because she doesn't live there. Because the town of the crime is so high and rent is so high, and she's like, I don't have to live here.
Yeah, I want that job. Yeah.
Rent is too damn high.
Roll out of bed about 8:30. Yeah.
So we have 2 weeks until the inauguration. What are you going to be doing that day, Jim?
So again, I think it's a huge thing. I think it's pivotal. I think in our lifetimes there has never been such a different, from an economic standpoint, of an outgoing administration to an incoming administration. And I think if you've seen the stock market over the last couple of months, one of the things I think is that this huge transition, even though it's to the right place, even though that's inarguable. I mean, their economic solutions of the administration that we were running against, it was asinine. But it's going to be a little bit clumsy. Like even today, the stock market's up like a full percent right now, just because Trump came out and said, well, these tariffs, they might be just on critical goods. Well, he said something like that. Nobody really knows what that means, but it's being interpreted by the market as a step back from blanket tariffs or really aggressive tariffs, which is a good thing. I think anytime he can make the transition seem less aggressive and less disruptive in the short term will be pretty good, and that's why the stock market's doing well today, and the dollar is actually traded lower on that news. But I think it's going to be a hard transition. I've said a couple times, I think 2025, both economically and from a stock market point of view, might be somewhat difficult. I think it's unreasonable to assume that because we had 20% the last 2 years, all of a sudden we're shooting out. By the way, you just asked if I was doing something on the inauguration day, and I gave you that whole answer. But yes, I will be having a toast at the bar on inauguration day.
All right. Jim Iuorio, host of the Futures Edge podcast and special contributor to Wire Points. We'll raise one for all of us 2 weeks from today.
I will. I certainly will. Why don't you come out? I'll see you at the bar. You too, John.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And Jim joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.